MAGA Fox News propagandist Jesse Waters admitted on air that he has been relentlessly trolled about Donald Trump's criminal convictions by his own mother, even as Waters and his other MAGA co-hosts are attempting to rewrite history by pretending that Trump never attempted nor threatened to weaponize the justice system against his enemies. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bell before you go. All right, friends, we have several clips to look at in this video. Jesse Waters, of course, is effectively the heir apparent to Tucker Carlson. He's Diet Tucker Carlson. He is not nearly as impactful in the ratings, but he's doing his best. And we talked about the dynamic between Waters and his mom before. It's actually kind of charming in a roundabout way because she is as outspokenly critical of Donald Trump as her son is outspokenly sycophantic of him. So it's a great rapport. I'm going to play this clip in which Waters explains that he's been trolled by his mom ever since Trump became a convicted felon. And then he uses it to segue into the idea that the left is just irresponsibly jubilant over Donald Trump's, being held accountable for his many crimes.
It was, Judge, my mom is celebrating. She texted me that she was dancing after the verdict, dancing. And then she kept all day sending me 34, 34, 34. Felony counts, Harold. You know exactly what I'm talking about. She's a grandmother. She's a grandmother. Get it together, Mom. Oh, my God. So usually when you see a crime, Judge, and you know this better than anybody, violent crime, for instance, people do become happy when there's someone that's convicted because you think, well, one, that person's going to be removed from society because then they can't commit another crime. And you feel a little bit happy for the victim's family because they have a sense of justice. Who's the victim here? Why are they celebrating?
Why are they celebrating? Because Donald Trump is a criminal and he has finally been made to be held accountable for his crimes. There's a possibility that if he loses the election and the rest of the cases against him are allowed to proceed, that he may face accountability in other more severe respects as well. That is perfectly reasonable to celebrate. And this idea is predicated on the lie that if the shoe were on the other foot, that if Hillary Clinton had been prosecuted for her emails or whatever it is they think she should have been prosecuted for, that these very same people whining that the left is celebrating wouldn't in turn be celebrating themselves. And we know better. We know that MAGA has engaged in open schadenfreude at the despair and dismay of their political opponents. And by the way, since when has it been the standard that you can only celebrate a criminal conviction or some sort of legal accountability if, number one, there's some sort of murder victim, or number two, if there's the threat of removal from society? Again, Jesse Waters and his MAGA cohorts are moving the goalpost here because they can't handle the fact that the left is giving them just a taste of their own spiteful medicine. I digress. But also in that same segment, Waters and Jeanine Pirro tried to peddle open, naked, stupid revisionist history, pretending that Donald Trump never threatened nor attempted to weaponize the Justice Department against his enemies.
We can see.
Jesse, the interesting part of this is that they keep saying that when Donald Trump comes back, he's going to be Hitler. And even though we've got 4 years of his never being Hitler, but he had a Justice Department, too. And when he first became president, people kept saying, lock her up for the email scandals and all the other stuff, the Clinton Foundation. They made Eric Trump take down, his charity for St. Jude. Donald Trump never weaponized his Justice Department. And
Donald Trump's Justice Department was weaponized against him. They had a special counsel investigating him.
So there was just so much there that baffled me. Let's go in reverse order. So according to Jesse Waters, Donald Trump's Justice Department could not have been weaponized against him because Donald Trump, as the president, was subject to a special counsel, Robert Mueller. Well, by that logic, President Biden's Justice Department can't be weaponized against Republicans because President Biden was the subject of a special counsel, Robert Hur. Robert Hur, a lifelong Republican. As a matter of fact, when Trump was investigated by a special counsel, when Trump was president, Robert Mueller was also a Republican. So under Trump, a Republican special counsel was investigating a Republican president. So Waters says that's proof that the Trump Justice Department wasn't weaponized. Again, that same standard, actually, if anything, it's even further proof that Biden's Justice Department is less weaponized against Republicans than anything, because Biden has been the subject of a special counsel, Robert Hur, again, a Republican. Biden's son is being prosecuted right now. As a matter of fact, I think on Monday, the trial begins. Hunter Biden, President Biden's son, has been prosecuted by a special counsel under President Biden, but the special counsel was appointed by Donald Trump, David Weiss. And Biden is allowing him to prosecute his own son. So that seems to be even further evidence that Biden's Justice Department isn't weaponized. As a matter of fact, CNN did a really good analysis of this. Does the DOJ target more Republicans than Democrats? Here's the data. The longstanding allegation from Trump is that President Biden has weaponized the Justice Department. There's a double standard for Republicans as compared with Democrats. There's plenty of evidence otherwise lately. Bob Menendez, a Democrat for New Jersey, is on trial for bribery for the second time in 7 years. In Texas, federal prosecutors have brought corruption charges against Representative Henry Cuellar, a Democrat, for allegedly taking $600,000 in bribes. Another Democrat, Cori Bush of Missouri, is the subject of a federal probe into her campaign spending. It's insane, folks. It's absolutely insane. Democrats, including President Biden and President Biden's son, Hunter, have been investigated by this Democratic administration. And again, it goes into more details where it counts up like federal cases against recent members of Congress. There are federal cases against current or former federal lawmakers. I was able to find, this is the guy writing the article, 9 targeting Republicans and 8 targeting Democrats. Seems pretty even-handed and in some respects even favorable for the Republicans. Trump has been investigated under Biden, but so is Biden, and so is Biden's son, and so are 2 prominent Democratic lawmakers. Where's the proof of bias? But again, she talks about, Jeanine Pirro talks about, well, also after Trump became president, then there were locks of lock her up, referring to Hillary Clinton. Now, she's lying. Trump himself explicitly campaigned in 2016 on prosecuting Hillary Clinton. Those claims, those demands didn't just manifest into existence after Trump became president. Trump was the one who started that whole lock her up phenomenon and campaigned on it. And then she says, but they didn't do it. Except that's a lie. And we've talked about this article before. Steve Bannon on MSNBC wrote a really good op-ed about this. On targeting Hillary Clinton, Trump rewrites recent history. Okay, and it goes into this. So to the extent that reality still has any meaning, let's review the receipts. In Trump's first year in the White House, after the 2016 was over and Clinton largely withdrew from public view, the then president publicly pleaded with the Justice Department to go after Clinton. A year later, in 2018, the then president told the White House counsel that he wanted to order the Justice Department to prosecute Clinton. Ahead of the election day 2020, nearly 4 years after Clinton's defeat, Trump again publicly called for Clinton's incarceration and lobbied then Attorney General Barr to prosecute Clinton for reasons unknown. None of this was kept secret. It happened out in the open. We all saw it play out in public. And yet, there was Trump on national TV patting himself on the back for showing restraint, saying it would have been terrible and horrible if he targeted Clinton after the 2016 election and tried to have her prosecuted. The problem, of course, is that Trump targeted Clinton after the 2016 election and tried to have her prosecuted. It's not a matter of opinion. It's simply what happened, whether the Republican assumes we've forgotten or not. And it's the same thing with Jeanine Pirro and Jesse Waters. I've been saying this quite a lot on Twitter, especially in the aftermath of Trump's conviction. When you get Republicans or MAGA cultists to finally, grapple with the fact that as the sitting president, Donald Trump did indeed publicly pressure his attorney general to prosecute not just Hillary Clinton, but also Barack Obama, an ex-president. I thought presidents were entitled to absolute presidential immunity. Curious how Trump changed his position on that, of course, because he's objectively an unprincipled, hypocritical loser who should be made fun of. But he also called for the prosecution of Joe Biden, his political rival, 1 month before the election. He called into Fox News, as a matter of fact, to do it. And he did it multiple times. So then when you confront them with that, they have no defense except to say, well, it didn't happen. As if Trump gets credit for Bill Barr and Jeff Sessions refusing to comply with his demands, or, for all we know, attempting to comply with his demands, but not thinking they could bring a credible case against the targets. They want to give Trump credit for trying to do a really bad thing and failing at it. That's like giving attempted murder and an attempted murderer a pass because the murder wasn't carried out. We don't do that. That's really stupid. An attempted murderer is not morally superior to a successful murderer simply because they failed in the attempt. Why on earth would we give Trump credit for that? But that just goes to show how the Fox propaganda network, conducts its business. They're engaging in open revisionist history, hoping that you have forgotten all this. And it's easy to forget about all of this. But here at Pondering Politics, we have not, and we will do everything we can to remind you that even on this score, the Republicans do not have the moral high ground. They have publicly campaigned on jailing their political opponents. They celebrate Donald Trump when he did it. They didn't try to check him. They didn't try to rein him in. At no point did they say, Donald Trump, this is ridiculous. You can't talk about this. Don't say this. This is unprincipled. This is not how we do things here in the United States. They celebrated it. They cheered it on. And they would have celebrated and cheered it on even more had he been successful. But he wasn't successful because he's an incompetent idiot and there wasn't a credible case to be made against the people he want targeted. So let me know what you think in the comments.